Makers Show is hosted by Tony Gaffestone and Christina Jackson. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. It's showtime, everybody. My name is Tony Gaffestone. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am a writer and a director and occasionally an actor that is living in Redwood City, California. You can find me on all the socials at Tony Gaffestone. I love getting to do this work. It is a blast being able to talk to people from all across the world who are creating, making all kind of stuff. And I'm always with my friend, my collaborator, and the producer of my second feature film, Christina Ray Jackson. Welcome, Christina.
Yeah, what's going on? Thank you, Tony. Hey, I'm Christina Ray Jackson. My pronouns are he, she, they. I am queer and coming to you from the Bay Area out here in California. I am in Dublin, California, about 20-30 minutes east of San Francisco. And I am an African-American woman with some kind of wild, wavy, reddish-brown hair today, rocking the Flash cosplay today. If you want to check out more of that cosplay, head over to my Instagram at Christina Ray Jackson, hashtag KRayCosplay. And this is great, Tony. Yeah, we do have a pretty awesome job what we get to do here every Wednesday.
Super glad that y'all can join us. If you're watching us live or on the replay, we always invite you to show some love in the comments, questions, whatever you want to do. We're happy to connect. Christine and I love interacting on social media. And I also am a Caucasian man with brown hair. I'm wearing glasses today in my studio that says Brave Maker on it. We want to be inclusive to all people. So whoever you are, however you are made, and go through the world, rolling, walking, crawling, whatever you do. We're so glad that you are with us. And Christina and I always start the conversation before we bring in our special guest with this one question. How are you braving your way toward your creative goals this week? What are you doing? One step at a time, one thing.
Tony, last week it was getting kind of rough. I am bringing my first comic book to life, issue 1, Prisoner, Pioneer, Golden Ray, and we've hit a few snags, and I was allowing those things to really rob me of my peace and my joy. And I have recommitted myself to making peace my priority and identified a few things that were stealing my joy away, Tony. And I took my power back, and I sat in presence with one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Eckhart Tolle. He has a beautiful 30-minute meditation on YouTube. He has a lot of meditations on YouTube, but that's one of my favorites, just to sit and be quiet and reevaluate what's important to me and get back to the joy of the work that we do. And so that's how I'm braving my way this week, by taking a beat and a breather and just knowing everything is going to be okay. And what about you, Tony? How are you braving your way this week?
It's gonna be okay. Okay,
it's gonna be okay.
That mantra will never get old for me, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like that. But tomorrow we have big news that our first feature film, Last Chance Charlene, will be premiering at a film festival. It goes live tomorrow. Then we can talk about it finally.
Exciting.
But delivering the film and all the assets, the closed captions, the sound design, everything was being put together over the past few weeks. A member of our post-production team stepped away for some time, so I had to pick up some slack, and I was braving my way literally by recording Foley sounds for the film on my iPhone outside one day, and also doing the captions, and also learning how to create a DCP. It is no joke. It is no joke making a film, y'all. So it pays to know how to do everything and anything. Sometimes it is a collaborative
Mhm.
a collaborative passion, a collaborative art, but sometimes things get dropped and you have to learn how to pick them up. So I had to brave my way by doing things I don't always like to do or want to do, but did it, and we turned everything in. And so far, I think we're good to go. We still have to do some ADR, additional dialogue recording, but it's okay. We'll screen in our first film festival without having fully completed everything that I had hoped. But, sometimes you just got to abandon it and not complete it. It just is what it is. But it's out in the world come April 1st, and all that news will come out tomorrow, March 10th. We can't wait to share it with you all.
That is super exciting. Real quick, DCP, what is that?
A digital
for?
cinema package. It's basically,
Okay.
a DCP. That's film talk for a file that is only played like theatrically on those like high-tech film projectors. So the digital cinema package is created for a film to play in a theater, which we will have a few theatricals through film festivals and our private VIP screenings in April and beyond, hopefully. So we had to create that. Other than a Vimeo link, or a YouTube link, it's just kind of like that one higher echelon. I don't know how it all works. It's coding and all this kind of stuff, but DCP, look it up. It's kind of cool.
Very cool. Thank you for that. For
Yeah,
all of us
totally.
new filmmakers out here. The film Tony is dropping these teasers for, and tomorrow's the big announcement, is my first feature. I play a very small role, but it is my very first time shooting a feature. So very cool. Continue to educate me, Tony. And behind the scenes, Tony and I are always texting each other. Get yourself a creative collaborative partner so you can bounce these ideas off for the rough times. Keep your chin up and keep moving forward.
Okay, I got to tell it before we bring our guests in. Our film is called Last Chance Charlene. It is coming out soon. I'm going to pull up. So those of you who are watching, we'll also put it in the show notes as well as in the chat. But, it's been something amazing to make this. I'll tell you that. It's been super fun to work with these actors and all these talented people. Comes out April 1st, as I said, but it's also been super challenging at times. And Christina choked me up yesterday by texting me memes. I seriously got choked up because I needed that encouragement and that support. And she texted me, "I got you. You're not alone." And these other fun kind of, inspiring images that really got me and reminded me, like, you got to find your crew, because if you don't have people backing you up, it's a real lonely journey. And just be a good person, be a good human with your collaborators. If you got to break ties, if you got to move on, do it with compassion and grace, and try as hard as you can to be a peaceful person, because this business is grueling at times, and only the resilient and the people who persevere, I think, can rise to the top. And that's what I hope we're going to do. So thank you, Christina, for being my friend as well as collaborator and producer in the middle of all this. It's been great.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, with that, let's bring in two collaborators who are working together, making films, and have been for some time, and talk about creative spontaneity. We had lost our guest yesterday, about 24 hours, and I reached out to them, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves because it's really cool what they're doing. So welcome to the show, the Brave Maker Show, Howard and Misha. Welcome.
Welcome, Howard and Misha. This is great. Thank you guys for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you guys for having us. We're excited to be here.
Heck yeah. Well, why don't you do your introductions, share pronouns, give us some physical descriptions so those who are unable to see you can connect with you, and then pronouncing your first and last names and your production company. Go.
Okay. My name is Howard Cambell. I'm a writer, actor, director, producer, also a little bit, I guess, of my stuff. I'm the owner, CEO of Ho How Productions, and I'm a Black male. I'm actually Afro-Latino. I'm half Salvadorian and I'm half Black, and that's kind of what I look like. I have some eye bags, a little tired right now.
Way to be transparent.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's me.
Yeah, and my name is Misha Zvagilskiy. I've been working with Howard for the last 5, almost 6 years now. I'm a producer. Just love working with him. And as a physical description, I'm a Caucasian. I'm wearing a hat that says LA. I'm wearing a blue T-shirt. And yeah, I'm a producer.
I love that you're a producer and your Instagram is directed by Misha.
Well,
Very good.
We're going to talk about that. All right, we're going to turn it over. Yeah. Christina, you love doing this intro, so go for it.
I do. I love it. So I've been immersed in comic book land for a couple years now, and I'm a huge fan of origin stories. And Howard, you gave us a little bit of your background, but please share your origin story with us. Where were you born and raised? And how has your journey uniquely prepared you for the work you're doing today?
Okay. So I was born in Hawaii, actually. I'm a military brat. Both parents were Army, so moved around a lot. But Hawaii was my place of birth. But I always say I was kind of raised in Texas, a little city kind of near Austin, Texas. That's kind of where I went through adolescence. But I moved to LA at like 17, 18. So I say I grew here and I'm growing into my adulthood here. And what was the next part of the question?
So some of your experiences in LA, like what has prepared you to be creating films like Sick Boys Die Alone and just doing the work, in front and behind the camera now?
So I would say it just dates back to like part of that moving around a lot growing up shaped me so much because, friends would leave or I would think I'd made a friend and then I had to move. So I didn't really have anything but my sister was the only like constant and my parents. But so because of that, I would always, play make believe a lot. And when I was very young, I knew I wanted to get into film just because I love movies. And so I asked my dad for his VHS camera, and I still have it to this day. And that's when I originally started making these little short films, forcing my family members to be in them. I'll release those clips one day. And yeah, that's how I started acting and directing. And I came out here to LA, and I guess it's just this, I don't know, ignorance or confidence. I never really feared enough, but it was a wake up call to get out here and like face like that much
Mhm.
rejection. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anybody here. So that's been a hard thing to learn and
Mhm.
experience. But each year I wouldn't say I get used to the rejection. I do, but I don't. I'm just learning. I'm just growing. I just keep trying, honestly. That's me.
I think
Bring it.
that's a beautiful, attitude to have, just learning and growing and not really judging. Am I winning or failing at the moment? And before we pose this question to Misha, Howard, are you a first generation filmmaker or do you have any relatives or close friends who are also in the business?
No, I'm first generation actually.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That's exciting. All
Thank you.
right, Misha, let's hear your origin story. Where were you born and raised? And
I was
how
born.
has your journey prepared you for the work you're doing today as a producer?
So I always loved movies, and I was born and raised in Russia, actually, which right now is. We can talk about that if you have any questions of like my opinions of what's going on right now in the world.
Hmm.
But I moved to LA when I was 17 as well, and so yeah, just from the start, I always was very interested. Like every kid is like loves to watch Disney films and animated films, but I was obsessed. I think more than anyone around me, and also I was. Uh, it's all dubbed in Russia, right? So like you can hear the not original voice of an actor basically. And somehow as a kid, I already knew that. I just didn't want to watch that. I wanted to see like somehow I already realized that there's an actor, there's a voice. I was always interested in how it's actually also made from a very young age. So I knew I wanted to do filmmaking like from the start, and I knew I wanted to move out here because I started traveling to United States since I was 13 to New York, and to other like New York was my first place in the United States that I visited. So I always knew that this is what I want to do, and LA felt like the right place to move. Like where else, especially out of the country of US. Now I know there's more beautiful places to film in America, but at that time I wanted to go to LA. So, and the second part of the question, what prepared me to, can you say it again?
Yeah, so you came to LA, and what really prepared you to start doing producing on a film such as Sick Boys Die Alone? Like, what do you feel in your personal experiences growing up has prepared you to be doing this type of work?
So, just the growing up part, even though I hated school and just the whole school system, I always was kind of good with numbers and math. I didn't even know what to use it for, but I liked it. That was the only thing besides like literature and some other stuff. I really liked math, even though I didn't like school. So I think just liking math and numbers prepared me to be like a better line producer, just as a growing up part of the question. But since I moved here, I knew I loved film and watching movies, and I wanted to make films, but I didn't know how can I contribute yet. So I went to film school on the filmmaking program, where we learned every aspect of filmmaking. I just still didn't know exactly. And the first thing I fell in love with was cinematography, because growing up I always loved photography, but I just loved cinematography, and my like fellow student classmates just always asked me to DP their first films. So this is kind of how Howard and I met, where he knew I'm good with equipment, good with camera, so we just started creating little stories, to like just little projects together, just outside of the school curriculum, because he was in the acting program. And eventually he kind of noticed that I'm more organized with just things like budgets and stuff like that, even on those little projects we did together. So he, around 4 or even 5 years ago now, came up to me with the first narrative script, and he asked me to produce it. And at that point, I haven't produced anything. I would only shoot or direct, DP a few little things in school or with other friends. And I just took it as an opportunity, and we made our first short before Sick Boys Die Alone around 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what we love hearing. We love hearing this initiative and people making stuff happen. So my brave fave is going to be what I share at the end, but how we connected. So I'm not going to say that yet. But the cool thing is the power of the internet and the power of social media. How with just in a few weeks, connecting with someone. Now you're all here, and you introduced us to your amazing short film, Sick Boys Die Alone. I don't say that lightly. It really is like so well done, so artfully crafted, so well acted. Howard stars in the film, wrote and directed it. Misha produced it and edited it. We'll show some clips of it while we're here, just visually without the sound on as you talk. But tell us about this film. Robertino was on our team. He watched it. He programs our film festival, which is in July. He said, "Where did this deep story come from?" So talk about the origin of Sick Boys Never Die. We'd love to hear it.
So Sick Boys Die Alone.
Sorry, I keep saying that. I keep saying it wrong. Sick Boys Die Alone. Sick Boys Die Alone. My bad.
I've been in like meetings, like pitch meetings or at studios, and they're like, "Sick boys don't cry." Sick boys.
My bad.
Boys don't cry. I see what's going on. Yeah.
Oh man, I did that before too, and I was like telling myself I should have wrote a note. Sick Boys Die Alone. Go.
But it came from originally I had wrote this, or I had an idea for this feature film, and so I wrote that. But through just pitching and meeting people, I started to realize like getting money to shoot a feature film was just very hard at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, how do I do something? Like I'm the kind of creator that gets very antsy. I'm sure you two can relate, but like when I'm not creating, I'm just like,
yeah,
I'm
I need to do it. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I need to do something. How do I do this? But I also don't like repeating too much. So the actual feature of it is a completely different story. But I was like, how do I pull from the same themes and just show? I don't shy away, like Christina was saying earlier, going towards the grittiness, the realness, and things that the industry really doesn't dive into enough. I'm the same way. And in my life and some of my experiences, I've dealt with just mental health problems. I have friends that deal with mental health issues. Just growing up around a lot of that in this world, in this country. It may or may not be normal, but I know I've experienced it a lot. So I really wanted to like tell that and show that. And part of the reason why I make film is because I want people to like be able to feel less alone in a sense, because that's why I go to movies. That's why I love dramas. To me, like it's an escape to see a realistic drama, and like I just relate to the people in that. I relate to the people I see in that. So I kind of want to do that, and I want people to feel like that when they watch my films. So I thought about that. And some of the things in Sick Boys came from my life, but also it was a mixture of a best friend of mine named Angel, Deja Pitts. She lives in Texas. It's a mixture of some of the stories she told me. Um, and I've always been fascinated by comedians because that's the one like art form. Like when I go to comedy shows, my friend's a comedian. I just notice like the stuff they're joking about is just so. Sometimes it's like real. It's it just is deep, and we're all like laughing at it, and that always stuck out to me. So I had an idea like, what if I showed just a comedian just on the edge, like what he's making jokes about. It's just his breaking point. And that's how the script came together. I wrote it really quick. I sent it to Misha. It's like, what do you think? Does it look like something we can do? And yeah, that was the conception of Sick Boys.
Yeah.
I see a common theme. You guys gravitate towards very provocative work. Misha, can you say a little bit about what gripped you about the script when you got the project?
Just how real and raw it was. At the same time, it was entertaining. There's something about all of Howard writing work that I always really like, because while it's being very raw and real and something we should all talk about, like mental health, it's always at the same time it's entertaining. So with this entertainment aspect, I think it's very good to show someone what a mental issue could do to a person, or it's just a very educational to audiences at the same time being not boring or entertaining. So I really thought this is a story that needs to be told. And since we already had experience working on other shorts and other projects, this was a bigger project and more ambitious project for sure. And I just really wanted to take the challenge, and while not just any challenge, to tell this particular story. Mm-hmm. And I also know Angel, the friend Howard talked about. I met her and I've heard those stories firsthand. And this was like terrifying what she would tell me about her childhood, because I would read the script and then I would ask her questions too. Like, did this actually happen and how it happened? Because I wanted to tell the real story from some of the moments of her life. So telling a realistic story of someone I know made it all even more interesting for me.
Yeah, so you were drawn to obviously the challenge of it, sounds like, but also the meaningful personal connection that you saw on the page. I want to hear a little bit about, again, I can't encourage you, if you're listening or watching live or on the replay, the link is in the live chat here, so you can watch the film Sick Boys Die Alone. It's on YouTube, and it'll also be in the show notes if you're listening on the audio. So watch it. It's out there in the world. It's growing in views, which is really cool. But trigger warning, there's some sensitive things in there. If you cannot handle those things, I would encourage you to be aware, but also great conversation to talk about abuse and trauma, and how do we process our trauma. And especially, I'm very much drawn to the creative, like the main character who Howard you play is a comedian and is processing trauma like literally just came from a traumatic event as well. I gasped out loud a couple of times. It's so visceral. So kudos to your whole team for making this. It's truly a piece of art, and I hope it opens a lot of doors for you. Talk to us about some of the challenges. I always like to hear how people recover from setbacks. We just made this feature film, and literally last week I lost a member of our post-production team, so I was scrambling and having to do all this stuff, and it was really hard. But on set, we had days where one of our locations was doing a remodel, like fully, like the loudest thing you could ever imagine. We didn't know about this. One day we had a huge wardrobe malfunction, 3 hours lost, and we had to reshoot the next day, and we had to pay people double because they were supposed to be taken out. It was just so hard. Talk to us about what went wrong, because we know things always go wrong on set in making a movie, and how you solved those problems. What'd you learn? What'd you learn about that?
Well, honestly, so much. I think I used to say too, even when we were shooting, we worked with another producer who came on, and I was like, and she had never done a film before. So I was like, just prepare, like anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So that's kind of how I prepped her when it comes to sets. I try not to speak that anymore because maybe I'm like bringing some of that negative, but it happens. It happens a lot. There's so many stories. I guess I'll just say one, the house where the sexual assault happens, that little scene with my uncle. Basically nothing was there. It was some guy managed it, owned it, but it was pretty much abandoned. But we rented it, and we were supposed to have a production designer, which is a person who would do the walls, bring in the furniture, have everything we need there in that scene. And the night before we shoot that, and that's our last day shooting, it was a 3-day shoot, right? The production designer pulled out because he got a bigger project, which is understandable, but we had nothing. So we showed up there, like I was
Brutal.
like, yeah, like the house was empty. So I was like, okay, I called him, I called the other producer and our friend. The team is just amazing. They were all down to help. But I was like, look, we live in LA. There's always a couch outside in some alleyway. Like we're gonna drive around, and exactly that. We drove the truck, a couch right behind.
Perfect couch.
The perfect couch that we used in the scene. Tables. We just drove around LA finding furniture. Tables. We had like all the props came from just everybody on set. I was like, this is what we need. Like if you have a lamp, if you have like stuff that looks like drugs, we need that for the table. Like everything, the wallpaper.
The guy like in his garage like actually happened to have some stuff that we didn't see during the scout, remember?
Oh yeah. So there was stuff in the abandoned home that we just were pulling that and just putting in the scene where the little boy's like banging on the door and there's like wallpaper and crayons written. Like we all were just doing that like so quickly before we shot. We were just drawing and trying to look like a little kid lived there and had been locked in this room. And
so like the whole team, like all the AC, like everyone who is basically like not supposed to do that at all on the set, we're just down to like we would like use the coffee to make the walls dirtier, or because that was the only room in the house that was actually kind of like clean because they rented it out to a previous production before. So the production designer the night before was supposed to like make everything look right how we wanted it. So on the day, the whole team was just making those walls really dirty, and like as you can see right now in this clip, like it's all us just making it look like it's. But
kudos for solving those problems.
Because you would never know. You would never know everything. Like there was never a moment where it felt like, ooh, it doesn't seem like that's what they. That's what they had intended on doing. Sorry about that. It all looked so organic and so intentional. And I think probably the other thing to remember when you're making a film is the filmmaking gods are with you if you believe in them. Magical things happen once you're on set and you're encountering challenges. And then almost immediately, like the solutions start coming and sometimes things turn out better. And I have to say, never had any clue that there was any, issues with that. So yeah, definitely kudos to you guys and for keep going, like to end up at a space with no couch and none of the things that you needed and you kept on going. That's amazing. That's a good lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was like a late call time that day because it was like a split day and night. So before 2 p.m., like literally our cinematographer was buying like crack pipes to
you could have just drove through LA alleys too to find those, couldn't you?
So luckily, the team is very like money is always a challenge when it's independent or a short film. So obviously, like if we had all the money we needed, like a production designer wouldn't pull out. But the fact that the team understands it, if it's the right people on your team, they would always like try their best, and like you would end up with this DP buying crack pipes before the shoot.
Yeah.
I want to say just a quick kind of thought on that. It happens, like what you said is your production designer, which ironically Christine and I were just talking to a production designer from Chicago. How fun is that? And serendipitous, because we're talking about our next feature film. But One thing I would love to encourage our communities of our creative communities and our crews. Things are always going to happen where you might be offered a higher paying gig. It's happened many times in our crew, and you got to make a choice. And sometimes I totally get it. I get why people do that. I think what would make it for me, what would soften that blow, which would feel like a bridge building moment as opposed to a bridge burning moment, is if that's you, if you get called away because, man, you got double the rate on another gig. Don't just drop the ball on production. Find if you can refer somebody else to take over your spot, because that will go a long way. Wow, it's so hard when someone just texts or says they can't show up, and it's like they just wash their hands of the responsibility. Make a few phone calls, make a few text messages. It will go a long way, because I tell you what, I get it, and I want people to make money, but I probably won't work with someone who drops the ball and won't lift some fingers to help recover what has been lost. That would just go a long way. Be that type of person in the creative community, because it'll benefit you. This is a relational business, and people want to hear, like, hey, she had to leave or he had to leave, but they did this, they did that to make sure they could compensate for it. Okay. Soapbox over.
Yeah.
But ours was a short film, so I'm curious, like, how you managed on a feature, all that going wrong. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I had some tough moments. I'll give it up for my AD Felipe Barandirian. He the one day on set where we were like, okay, cool, that's a wrap on our 2 kids and our studio teacher. Yay, they're done. And like, seriously, 10 minutes later, we realized they were in the total wrong wardrobe. Oh my gosh. We're moving on to the next scene. The next scene was already set up and the kids were done. The studio teacher had a birthday to go the next day, and we had to bring them all back. I had to take a walk around the block. I was just like, what? That's going to cost money. That's going to cost time. One of the other actors was flying out the next day too. So my AD just came up and he's like, okay, you okay? All right, we're going to make it work. My producer was on the phone. Shout out to Karen. They were making things happen, and they were just like acknowledging this is really hard right now. And they were also coming up with solutions. Could we reshoot this? Could we do that? Could we cut that? Ultimately, it worked. We got everybody back the next day. We shot the whole thing in an hour, which took us 3 hours to do the day before. So it was better. It was crisper. It was the right wardrobe. And somebody realized we didn't have a prop that was super crucial to the storyline. So all that stuff, just I'm thankful for a crew who hustles. But then other things happen. Like somehow I lost the whole scene, a transition scene. There was no dialogue in it, but it was just like a B-roll visual that I was really excited that we got at golden hour. Somehow DIT, it didn't make it. It didn't make it into a drive, and we just lost it. So you got to kind of pick and choose what you're going to cry over and have a good cry and move on and tell the story and do better next time,
No, facts. It's like the biggest part of all this, I think. Because you can dwell on stuff for so long, but what does that help?
Right. Totally. Well, we are super glad to meet you both. Very, very excited for what's coming up for you. And do you want to talk about that? Do you want to share what you have next?
Yeah, we would love to. So, well, the bigger project, there's 2 that we're working on. The bigger one is the debut feature. It's a feature called Firstborn Unicorn.
Ooh, I love the title.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that one because it's kind of my ode to like my experience of moving here, but also my family. Like, I'm including that Afro-Latino culture and that experience of what that shows. And that's a really cool film. It's a little more ambitious. We're still in the process of getting funding for that. But that one's about like a very ambitious, overly ambitious film school student in his last semester of college. And then he gets this alluring opportunity to direct a porno. So he kind of falls into the trap of money and that world. But then, his family, he's the firstborn child, firstborn to go to college, first artist. They're thinking, he's going to be a director and succeed in the film world. And it just all gets crazy. I like to get dark. If you've seen Voice I Alone, so things get dark. There's a little bit of more comedy. It's not as dramatic, but yeah, that one's a big one. But we're actually shooting, if all goes well, next month, a pilot presentation called Sugar Sold, and that one's about two boys. They moved to Los Angeles. They're just in this time of we just live in this time of social media and everybody's showing off their wealth, their materialism. And I think a lot of the times, not even my generation, I think a lot of people, like, they don't know exactly what they want to do in life or what they want to be at like 21 years old, let alone like, there's even 30-year-olds and up who don't know what they really want to do. So I kind of want to dive into that and see more characters like that. Like, I'm told a lot as a writer that your character needs to have this very strong goal. And maybe that does make a story stronger, but sometimes I feel like not all humans are the same. So this one's about these two boys. They're in that they don't know what they want to do, so they decide to get sugar mamas. And so it's putting these two women at the helm of the ship, and it's going to be female-led. These two powerful women are controlling these two young boys, and it gets dark. It's comedic, but
Of course it does.
something. But yeah, we're actually filming that next month, so I'm excited about that.
That's a
I
test.
like how you're delving in the darkness, but also positioning it as escapism. Because I think a lot of people imagine escapism as like a Marvel movie, something sci-fi, something very upbeat and positive. And you were actually delving into a very darker space. But I did find that there was some escapism elements in that, especially in Sick Boys Die Alone when you were on the stage doing the stand-up. And I also think it is so beautiful, for all the children who have, and many of us have experienced trauma. You don't grow up and get to a place where you're healed enough to share that pain because it's just too much. So kudos to both of you for putting, a lot of Angel's experiences in the film. Brave stories change the world, and you are the story. That's our motto. This is an incredibly brave story that I don't know sometimes if that story was yours, that you become a filmmaker and you're able to share, but you guys were able to share this in a really beautiful and almost romantic way. And I think that's amazing. I think that's what was really appealing about it. And then this is like a totally like separate comment. Misha, you mentioned you're from Russia, and this is a social justice company. What do you want to say about the situation that's going on, if you want to make a comment at all?
Yeah, I can totally make a comment. Well, first of all, I think this is devastating and absolutely horrible what is going on. And I moved a long time ago, and I always wanted to move. And I have, luckily, like here, a lot of Ukrainian friends. And luckily, like nothing changes between us at all. Like we love each other. Everything here, we're safe. Everything's happening here is all safe. So we on both, kind of like, I'm not picking any side. I mean, I'm picking the Ukrainian side, absolutely. Like, this is terrible what Russia is doing, and I don't want to relate to that at all. And yeah, this is just terrible, and I hope it ends soon. I hope people stop dying, because like for absolutely no reason, like everything should be able to be resolved in this day and like nowadays, like in 2022, everything should be resolved diplomatically as much as possible.
Right.
And it's terrible. I have a friend in Kiev right now who I met here. Also, Howard knows him as well, Miro. He is from Ukraine, but he actually went to Afghanistan. He's an American military army veteran, but he happened to be in Ukraine when it started. And instead of like, he could easily like flee the country and come back to America because he has an American passport, but he's so brave. He stayed there. And now, like currently, he's using his American military army experience to help as much as he can people over there. So I think Ukrainians, including their president, are so brave right now. And I just think, I just hope it ends soon. It's absolutely sucks, and I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be related to any of that. And a lot of Russian people in Russia, including my family, absolutely do not support it. Absolutely not. And it's just terrible. Like those Russian people, they it's not their fault, and I feel bad for them as well for being a part of the country.
Misha, thank you for standing with Ukraine as a Russian-born person now in the States. I think that is a big statement of solidarity, and Bravemaker also stands with the Ukraine. And I also have another friend who is born in Russia and now an American citizen, who also feels the challenge of, some of the racism and pushback that he's getting as he makes his way through his life as an American citizen, and some of the things that have been said or, looks that he gets. So it is so complicated, we as human beings, but I think I echo your statement. Can we just be diplomatic? Can we just be human and civil toward one another? And we really believe the power of stories can help do that. So keep telling your stories, everybody.
Yes.
That's why we're here. Let's make the world better. Going back to what you said, Howard, earlier, you're not alone. May you feel connected and that you belong to the greater good of this world and this earth and this planet that we have been entrusted to live and do something great for the future of everyone. So, all right, well, it's time to end our show with our brave faves.
Brave faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave faves.
All right, I'm up. So I love trap music. I go so hard for trap music, and I also love my 5-year-old niece, and she introduced me to SpongeBob trap music. How about that? This is like one of my favorite songs right now. And if you need to pick me up, best day ever, we'll do that for you. The energy is beautiful, the beats fire, and it's perfect for adults who are interacting with little kids but still want to turn up and have a good time without losing their mind. So yeah, best day ever, SpongeBob, check it out. And if you haven't subscribed, and I'm not paid to say this, go subscribe to trap music now. It's amazing. You just throw it on and go. That's my brave fave. What about you, Tony?
So I met Misha and Howard through a social media work platform that I thought was kind of dead. But my brave fave for the week is LinkedIn, y'all. I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
What
that's
is
right.
happening on LinkedIn? It's going down on LinkedIn. I have been being pretty active. Christina and I are there. So send us a message. Love our stuff. Share your work. We're making meetings. We're getting meetings on LinkedIn. So yes, I love Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all this stuff. But LinkedIn. So go find us, go find Brave Maker and share the work that you're doing on LinkedIn with us. That's my brave fave for the week. What do you got, Howard? What's your brave fave? Anything?
My brave fave would be I want to champion and talk about this. It's an independent film called Shiva Baby. It's an independent feature written by a woman, starring a woman. I think it's amazing. It's in the wheelhouse of like what I'm gravitated towards. I think everybody should go watch it. I think it's on HBO Max, and it's about a girl who goes to a family funeral. Somebody in her family died, and her sugar daddy is there. So it's this 90-minute ball of anxiety. It's funny.
That's great.
And it's independent. It was made for $200,000, and it just won a Spirit Award. So I think it's amazing. It's beautiful what they're doing, and I'm all for indies and indie filmmaking. So if you can,
it got a, what was it the John Cassavetes Award at the Spirits or something like that? Yeah, awesome. If you want to be an indie filmmaker, go watch that film. Right on. Great one. What about you, Misha?
So I would say I love this book. I just finished. It's Matthew McConaughey wrote it. It's called Green Lights or Green Light. I'm not sure right now, but I just really like how we talked about it earlier. How great stories need both like a very raw and real message while being entertaining at the same time. And I think that book does exactly that. So as you can tell, I gravitate towards stuff like that with stuff I want to produce and watch. So yeah, it's a very good book. I read it in 3 days, and yeah, it's a very entertaining yet raw and real book. That's it. And I love Shiva Baby as well. I'm glad they won at least something.
It was funny. I saw there was a lot of conversation around, should we be glorifying indie films? Did anyone make a living wage on that? A lot of good conversation on Twitter about that, but you got to start somewhere. I mean, gosh, no one's going to be giving you $1 million or $5 million to make your first feature. So way to go, Shiva Baby, for making something for, I think the Cassavetes Award is under $500K. So
love it.
That's great. That's our goal. We're trying to raise a couple $100K for this next feature. So
I'm so excited.
All right. Well, hey, don't go away, you two. We're super glad you're here. We're going to do our end notes. You are an amazing viewership. If you are watching us or listening us live or on the replay, you know that we can't do this work without you. So I want to say a huge thank you to all of our sponsors and supporters. Bravemaker is fully supported by people who give generously to our nonprofit. We are an arts charity. You can give at bravemaker.com/donate. You can also take your phone and text the word Bravemaker to 44321, and you'll get a link there, and you can become a one-time giver or a monthly giver. We have 22 people who give every month, and that helps us with our online streaming platforms, with our rent for our studio, with our gear and equipment. And then money that comes in over and above helps us make our films, from the shorts to the features to the animations, the narratives, and the documentary is all made by you and your support. So please become a donor today. You can even go onto our website and become an email subscriber, and the email is at bravemaker.com/buzz. I mean, the registration. But there's going to be a really cool email coming out in about a week or two for a special VIP screening of Last Chance Charlene, which is our first feature film. So if you would like to see that, we are doing a fundraiser in April that is going to be a cast and crew VIP screening only. We really want to encourage you to check it out, but you have to sign up on our email list. It will not be publicized on social media. Come see my directorial debut of my feature film, as well as Christina Ray Jackson's acting debut in a feature film. Yeah, we're really excited about it. Christina, who do we need to thank today?
We have such an amazing team behind the scenes that help us bring the show to life every week. So thank you, Amy Cohen, live, our producer from Austin, Texas, Carrie Alley, our social media manager, Barnell Amos, our podcast editor. They're both from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Emerson Morley from San Francisco Bay Area. She's our Bravemaker intern. And soon, Chicago film student Sarah Agolia, who's joining us to take over our TikTok. So stay tuned for that. We're super excited for that. And thank everyone.
And Howard and Misha, one more time, how can people find you and follow you on the interwebs?
So I have a YouTube that has a lot of my work, almost all of my work up to date, called Ho How Productions. If you search that on YouTube, that also is where you can find Sick Boys Die Alone and some of the upcoming trailers for what we talked about today.
Nice.
And my Instagram, I'm very inactive just on Instagram, but I just re-downloaded it, so I'm gonna try to get on there and try again. Have a semi-toxic relationship with it, but we're getting better. My Instagram is ho.howw, and that's where you can find me.
Yeah, same about the YouTube. Yeah, and recently we both started using LinkedIn, and you can find me on LinkedIn. It's basically like if you search for my name, I'm the only one with that hard to pronounce last name. So so you can find me on LinkedIn. Same with Instagram is directed by Misha, and let's talk about that. Why it's directed. Produced was basically taken. So
well, we're glad you're easily found in that way, so that's good.
Maybe eventually I will direct it.
Cool. Well, hey, you two, thank you so much. We wish you the best. Do not go away. We'd love to come back in 2 minutes or 1 minute after we end here and talk to you real quick and take a photo with you. But to everybody else, thank you so much. Go watch Sick Boys Die Alone. Go follow them on their Insta pages. Give them some shout outs. This is the indie film life. We want to support one another. Christina and I love doing this work, and we say brave stories change the world.
And you are the story. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Stay tuned, guys.
Thank you.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word Bravemaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.